Welcome to the week 2 video. I am your host, as always, JB. And if you've seen those commercials, the NFL commercials, the script writers, they scripted this week pretty much dead on. I have to say, everything that happened, I expected it to happen. JB, as one of your diamond dogs, I'd be remiss to not to tell you that we should mourn those who we have lost in week 1. You are right, Ron. Let's give a moment to those who we lost in week 1.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room, and the endlessness that you fear. You are pulled from the wreckage of your silent reverie.
Let's hear it for our new segment producer, director, Sam. As she's going to be the content creator for the videos to spice it up, right? Really, it's gonna turn the best part is not really me, but her stuff there. So, a great in memoriam, as someone said. Lord, we're having an in memoriam for week 2. Yes, that was quite the week. Jordan Love, right? I mean, hello. Ownership of the Bears got transferred quite quick. And who would have thought that after 4 plays, Aaron Rodgers would be done with the Jets? Well, done for the year. Doesn't mean he's done for the Jets, but done for the year. So that was quite the thing. And, Joe Burrow only getting 83 yards. I really can't talk bad about Joe Burrow, but, 83 yards. It was just a weird week 1. We had teams score over 130, and Eric lost to one of those teams. He was the third highest scorer and lost to the second highest scorer. So those are killer losses. And Eric, that's why you made the in memoriam, because week 1 you've already got your Monday Night Rundown, your snake bitten team. So let's just take a look at the results from week 1 there. So there it is. There's the week 1 quick review. How you feeling? Feeling good? Feeling bad? You're not comfortable that you're 0-1 and you're like, again, I lost on Monday Night Football, another Monday Night Rundown. When I have Josh Allen, oh man. But you know what? I may not be the perfect person to describe what it could look like after week 2. So why don't I just kick it off to my good friend, Steve Kornacki. Let's break down what next week could possibly look like. Thanks, JB. I'm glad to be back in the 2023 videos to help go over statistics and numbers and just simply break down whether it's time to panic and sell everything off and look forward to 2024, or if it's just hold the brakes, let's take a moment back and get ready to make a good push for the rest of the season. So like JB said, you're 0-1 or you're 1-0. It could mean anything. So in 2012, we went to a 6-team playoff. So when we look at these next statistics, we're not counting 09, 10, or 11. Remember, 09 was an 8-man team league, and in 12, 10, and 11, we only played 4 teams in the playoffs. So there's 4 teams that did not make any kind of playoff whatsoever. So for our purposes, we're using that. So in these 11 years, we've had 132 teams overall. So, statistically, how does that break out, right? How does everything shake out after the first 2 weeks of the season? Simple enough, right? So, teams starting off at 2-0, we've had 33. Okay, ready for this? Teams starting 0-2, 33, which means 1-1, we've had 66 teams. Are we seeing a pattern here? Look at that. It's 25% of the teams, 50% of the teams, 25% of the teams. So it is a statistical curve of how this plays out. So it's even that every year we have about the same amount of teams. Still 2-0, 1-0, 1-1, and 0-2. So it's important that we break these down to understand the next steps. Let's take a look at who's going to make it to the playoffs when you finish. So we keep our numbers up here in the corner. Remember, it's a quick breakdown. 2-0 is 33, 1-1 is 66, 0-2 is 33 teams. So now, how does that break down going into the championship bracket playoffs? Remember, we're only talking about championships. We're not talking about who's going to win the Bob Harvey Consolation Bowl or the Andy Coppins Dumper Bowl. We don't really care about that now. What we really want to know now is what statistical chance do you have going into week 2 of figuring out what you have to do to get there. So let's start off with the 2-0 teams. So the 2-0 teams that have made it, 26 out of the 33 teams made the playoffs. So if you look at that, that is a 79% of teams that started off 2-0 make it to the bracket. Now that does mean 7 teams may not make it into the playoffs. So just because you're all 2-0 going into this next week, after week 2, does not mean guarantee you have a good shot at making the playoffs, right? It helps, but let's not lock it in yet. So for 1-1, 30 teams out of 66 have made it. So statistically, overall, more 1-1 teams make the playoffs than the 2-0 teams. So of that, 45% of teams that start 1-1 make the playoffs. And if you're 0-2, this is the big thing. This is what we've got to remember. 0-2 is not a death sentence. It's definitely not really good, but it's not the end of your fantasy year. Of that, 10 teams out of 33 have made it to the playoffs. So you still got a shot. Statistically meaning almost one team every year starts 0-2, finds their way into the playoff bracket. Of that means, 30% of teams that have started that statistically find themselves into that bracket. So, here we are, looking at the numbers. Just because you start 2-0 doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs. Just because you're 0-2 doesn't mean you're not going to make the playoffs. So, doesn't mean to panic or buy yet. Just definitely means if you're in this category, you got a lot to worry about. And if you're in this category, you still got to be good. You got to be lucky. And you still got to keep going on and not just give up because it's a long season. Let's now take a look at champions. So now let's talk championship, right? You started off, whatever, and then we made it to the playoffs. Now we've gotten past the first 2 grueling rounds, and here we are in the championship bracket facing JB for the title back. So it's hard to read, but there's the math of everything that's gone through. So here's how it breaks down. 2-0 teams have gone on to win the championship 5 times. Okay? Remember, we've had 11 years of champions since we've gone to this particular format. Teams that are 1-1, 5. So it just goes to show you here, right? You can already see the math, right? Before we go further, your chances of making the playoffs, remember, as a 1-1 is just as good as it is a 2-0 team, right? More teams as a 1-1 has made the playoffs than a 2-0 team. And when you break it down, just because you start 2-0 doesn't correlate to a championship. You're still 1-1. You still have that opportunity. But ladies and gentlemen, 10 teams have made the playoffs, right? Out of 33 that started 0-2. Of that, one team has gone on to win the championship at 0-2. So it is not an impossibility, right? The odds are stacked against you, right? You're already 1 of 10, 10 of 33. So you're 1 of 33 teams to get to that pinnacle. But it is still possible. Folks, if you're wondering, that champion, JB in 2014. So there you go. Breaking down. Second week has always been kind of that panic week. The reason why is you like to win that first week. But this shows you here, everything is still up for grabs. JB, back to you. Thank you, Steve, for that breakdown of the 1-0, 2, 1-1, 2-0, and 1-2 stats. Hopefully it makes you feel a little bit better about losing last week, going into this week. And I think what the biggest thing, and this is what it is for me, the reason why you always want to win week 1 is because it's a warm, fuzzy feeling. We all know winning week 1 doesn't amount to jack, right? You can go 1-13 pretty easily. But what it is that, fantasy leaves us in December. And, it isn't until September that it comes back, right? Football lasts longer, but for fantasy, it's really gone for that short, it's only really here for that short amount of time. So most of us lose, really 11 of us lose that final week, and there's only one winner. So when you get back to it, you want to validate, you want to know you did well, and it just makes you feel good after that first week. But it does absolutely not mean very much. So let's get into week 2 and take a look at the matchups and see how you're going to fare, or feeling you're going to fare. There it is, this week's video, all wrapped up. Week 1, done with a bow. Still going strong with it. There's only one thing left to do. So to Steve Kornacki, our special guest, to those who we lost in week 1, to those who lost week 1, to Eric's epic Monday night rundown, and to a speedy recovery of Aaron Rodgers, who, as Packer fans, we may joke, but we still respect the man and love him. But, good luck, Jets. And here's to Jordan Love and a wonderful start. And Matt LaFleur, use Aaron Jones. Obviously it works, right? We've seen it. So, here's on to week 2. I'll see you on the Fantasy Gridiron.